Where's Emma? Victor stopped in the doorway to the living room, taking in the set table, the colorful balloons hanging from the ceiling, and the guests sitting on the couch. Arthur, his 6-year-old grandson, was seated at the head of the table, but the seat next to him was empty. The seat where the birthday boy's mother was supposed to be. His son-in-law, Matthew, was lounging in an armchair with a glass in his hand. He casually waved toward the door. She's sitting out on the landing. He chuckled, as if he'd just made a clever joke. Vivian, the mother-in-law, was sitting beside her grandson. She nodded approvingly. Victor silently took off his coat. His movements were calm, measured. That was how he always moved when cold fury was boiling inside him. 30 years at the district attorney's office had taught him how to control his emotions. But now, looking at his son-in-law's smug grin and his mother-in-law's stone face, he felt something inside him crack. He took out his phone and dialed a number. "Steve, this is Victor. Do you remember the Sullivan construction case? Embezzlement. Yes, that one. I need everything. Today." He spoke quietly, but in the silence every word rang clear. Matthew slowly lowered his glass. The smile vanished from his face. For the first time that evening, Vivian turned toward him, fear flickering in her eyes. "Thank you. I'll be waiting." Victor put the phone away and looked at his son-in-law. "I'm taking my daughter, and you, Matthew, get ready for a very serious conversation." He left without waiting for a reply. Emma was sitting on a windowsill between floors, hugging herself. The January draft cut straight to the bone, but she seemed not to notice the cold. Her eyes were dry. She'd long forgotten how to cry. Tears changed nothing. Hearing footsteps, she lifted her head. "Dad!" Surprise and shame mixed in her voice. "Come on, sweetheart." He held out his hand. "Let's go home." "But Arthur, it's his birthday." "We'll come back for him, I promise." Something in her father's voice, the calm confidence she'd been missing all these years, made her stand up and take his hand, like when she was little, when he had been her protection from the whole world. Emma Sullivan, née Morris, was born into the family of a district attorney and a teacher. Her father, Victor, had spent his entire career at the district attorney's office, eventually becoming a deputy district attorney. Her mother, Linda, taught literature at a public school. It was she who instilled in Emma a love for children and the teaching profession. The Morris family lived by simple but unbreakable rules: honesty, fairness, respect for one another. Her father might come home after midnight, exhausted from another case, but in the morning he always found time to drink cocoa with his daughter and ask how school was going. Her mother never raised her voice, but a single look from her was enough to make her displeasure clear. Emma grew up a quiet, obedient girl, not a beauty, but pleasant-looking, with soft chestnut hair, gray-green eyes, and freckles across her nose that she unsuccessfully tried to get rid of as a teenager. She wasn't part of loud crowds, wasn't the life of the party, but she knew how to listen, how to understand, how to empathize. Friends came to her with their problems, and she always found the right words. Emma met Matthew by chance, 6 months before graduating from college. It was March. Emma was coming back from her internship, weighed down with notebooks. At the bus stop, a group of drunk guys decided to hit on her. At first, it was just crude comments. Then one of them tried to grab her bag. "Hey," came a voice from the side. A tall, dark-haired guy in a construction company jacket practically appeared out of nowhere between her and the thugs. "Got a problem, guys?" There were 3 of them, and just one of him. But something in his calm confidence, in the way his broad shoulders squared, in his sharp, steady gaze made them back off. They muttered something and took off. "Are you okay?" He turned to her. His eyes were light brown, warm, and his smile was open. "Yes, thank you, Thank you." "Matthew." He held out his hand. "Emma." That was the beginning. Then there was coffee at a nearby cafe, long conversations, a first date at the movies, a first kiss in the rain. Matthew turned out to be the son of the owner of a construction company, but he never bragged about it. He worked on job sites, studied, planned to take over the business someday and grow it. My mom says I have to know everything from the inside, he explained. You can't run people if you don't understand their work. Emma met Vivian for the first time 2 months after she and Matthew started dating. He'd put it off for a long time, and Emma understood why. Matthew adored his mother, but at the same time, he was afraid of her. She's strict, he'd say with a nervous chuckle. Strict was putting it mildly. Vivian Sullivan was a woman used to being in charge. Tall, imposing, with impeccable hair and cold gray eyes. Her late husband, Paul, had founded Sullivan Construction back in the early 90s. After his death from a heart attack a few years earlier, when Matthew was 25, his widow had taken over the company. At their first meeting, she looked Emma over with a gaze that made her want to hide. So you're the teacher? I'm finishing college. That was all her future mother-in-law saw fit to say. Mom, Emma is amazing. She loves kids so much. I hope she'll love her own no less, Vivian cut in, and didn't say another word to Emma for the rest of the lunch. When Emma's father learned about the connection to the Sullivans, he frowned. Sullivan Construction? Yes, Dad. Matthew works there. It's his family business. I've heard some things about that company. Not the best. Dad, you hear bad things about everyone, Emma tried to joke. She was in love, and nothing could cloud her happiness. Victor said nothing. He didn't tell his daughter that a couple of years earlier there had been complaints about Sullivan Construction, substandard materials, delayed wages for workers. Later, everything had been smoothed over. They got married a year after meeting. A modest wedding at Emma's insistence. She didn't like lavish celebrations. Vivian was unhappy. Could have done it in a restaurant, she said through clenched teeth. But to everyone's surprise, Matthew took his bride's side. This is how we want it, Mom. It's our day. The first 2 years of marriage were happy. Matthew came home from work tired but satisfied. They had dinner together, watched movies, made plans. He wanted kids, lots of them, a loud crowd. She laughed. Let's start with one. Arthur was born in December, in the middle of a snowstorm. The delivery was hard. Emma nearly died. Matthew didn't leave her side for a week, sleeping on a chair in the hospital. I almost lost you, he whispered, kissing her pale hands. Never scare me like that again. And then her father-in-law died. Paul Sullivan passed away suddenly. A massive heart attack at the family cabin. The doctors didn't make it in time. Matthew was crushed. He worshipped his father, even though he didn't see him often. Paul had always been busy with work, and that was when everything began to change. Left alone at the head of the company, Vivian clutched her son in a death grip. I need your help, Matthew. You're not going to leave me alone, are you? He started spending 12 to 14 hours a day at work. He came home exhausted, withdrawn, more and more irritable over little things. Emma tried to be patient. He's grieving. It's hard for him. I just need to wait. But the waiting kept dragging on. Then her mother-in-law started coming over to help with her grandson. In reality, she criticized everything, how Emma cooked, how she dressed the child, how she kept the house. There's dust here. Don't you know how to clean? This soup has no salt. How can anyone eat this? Arthur needs a different bed. This one is too cheap. Emma endured it for Matthew's sake, for the sake of peace in the family. But one day she couldn't take it anymore. Vivian, please don't reprimand me in front of the child. Her mother-in-law raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? Arthur hears everything. Later he asks me why Grandma scolds me. I'm not scolding. I'm educating. I'm his mother. That's my responsibility. Something like surprise flashed in Vivian's eyes, as if she were seeing her daughter-in-law for the first time. Then cold fury. "Matthew," she called out, "come here." When her son came in, she pointed at Emma. "Your wife just spoke rudely to me." "This is our home," Emma said quietly, but no one was listening. "Emma, apologize to Mom," Matthew said wearily. She looked at him in disbelief. "For what?" "She's older. She does a lot for us. Just apologize, and that's it." Emma apologized. Her voice was steady, but something inside her broke. That day she understood. Her husband had chosen a side, and it wasn't hers. 3 years passed after that. 3 years of small jabs, poisonous remarks, demonstrative ignoring. Vivian came over more and more often and stayed longer and longer. Matthew stopped noticing how his mother humiliated his wife, or pretended not to notice. Emma threw herself into work. At school, both the children and her colleagues loved her. She was patient, attentive, able to reach even the most difficult students. The principal often praised her at staff meetings. "Emma Morris Sullivan is our pride." But at home, those words meant nothing. Arthur grew into a smart but anxious boy. He felt the tension between the adults, even if he didn't understand why. "Mom, why are you crying?" he asked once, catching her in the kitchen with red eyes. "I was cutting onions, honey. Just onions." She learned to cry silently. She learned to smile when she wanted to scream. She learned to say, "Everything's fine," when inside it was empty and dark. Her parents saw that something was wrong with their daughter. Her mother tried several times to talk, but Emma brushed it off. "Mom, every family has its problems. That's normal." Her father frowned, asked careful questions. Emma dodged the answers. She was ashamed to admit that her marriage wasn't what she'd dreamed of. And then there was that birthday. Arthur was turning 6. Emma prepared for a whole week. She baked a cake shaped like a car, decorated the room, bought presents. She wanted that day to be special. Vivian showed up that morning, without warning, as usual. She looked over the decorations, tasted the cake, and grimaced. "It's dry. You should have ordered one from a bakery." "Arthur likes it when I bake it myself," Emma objected. "Arthur is still little. He doesn't understand the difference." Matthew came out of the bedroom and kissed his mother on the cheek. He barely glanced at Emma. "Are you ready? The guests will be here soon." Almost. By lunchtime, a few families with kids had gathered, Arthur's classmates. It was loud and fun. Emma bustled around the kitchen, carried out food, made sure everyone was taken care of. She didn't notice Vivian talking to her son in the hallway. She didn't see him frown, the muscles in his jaw tightening. When the guests with children left, Emma wanted to sit down at the table and have dinner with the family. But Matthew blocked her path. "Emma, step outside." "What?" "Mom needs to talk to me and Arthur. Family business. Stay in the other room for now." "But Emma. I said step out." Her parents' apartment greeted her with warmth and the smell of her mother's apple pie. Linda, seeing her daughter's pale face, immediately fussed over her. Tea, a blanket, a pillow. Victor silently went into his study and closed the door. "Mom, I don't want to talk about it," Emma asked when her mother sat down beside her. "Okay, sweetheart, don't talk. Just stay here." They sat in silence. Somewhere in the study, her father was talking on the phone. She couldn't make out the words, but from his tone, Emma knew. It was serious. She'd never heard her father's voice like that before, hard, commanding. He only spoke that way at work. An hour later, the doorbell rang. Matthew. Emma flinched. "I'll get it." Her mother stood up, but her father came out of the study. "Stay, I'll handle it." He opened the door and blocked the doorway with his body. Matthew looked disheveled, anxious. "Victor, where's Emma?" "She's safe, unlike some people." "I don't understand." "You will." Her father-in-law's voice was icy. "You'll understand soon enough. For now, Tell your son that Grandpa took Mom to stay with him and that he loves him. But we need to talk. We will talk. But not today. Go, Matthew, and think very carefully about what you did today." The door closed in the son-in-law's face. Emma curled up under the blanket. She expected her father to start questioning her, demanding explanations. But he just came over, put his hand on her shoulder and said, "Rest, sweetheart. Everything will be okay." That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She lay in her old room, which her parents had kept almost unchanged. The same floral wallpaper, the same desk where she'd done her homework. On the shelf were her childhood books, worn copies of Lindgren and Roald Dahl. She'd read them to Arthur so many times before bed. Arthur, her boy, he was there now, with them, and she was here. She quietly got up and went to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water. Her hands were shaking. "Can't sleep either." Her father's voice came from the darkness. He was sitting at the table, a folder with papers spread out in front of him. "Dad, what are you planning?" Victor was silent for a long time. Then he sighed and turned on the light above the table. "Sit down, Emma. It's time we talked." She sat across from him. He looked tired, but in his eyes burned the fire she remembered from childhood, when he talked about major cases, about criminals who'd been put away, about justice finally prevailing. "I've been keeping an eye on them for a long time, on the Sullivans." "Dad, let me finish. When you got married, I did some digging. Even back then, I didn't like a few things, but the cases were closed and there wasn't any proof, and you were happy. I didn't want to destroy that." "What are you talking about?" "Sullivan Construction. Do you know how many complaints they've had in the last 10 years? 23? Substandard materials, fraud, not paying their workers?" Emma stayed silent, trying to process what she was hearing. When Paul was alive, the company ran more or less honestly. Yes, there were violations, but minor ones. After he died, everything changed. Vivian took control and what? Her father opened the folder. "Today I called an old friend, Steve Walker. They've been running an investigation into Sullivan Construction for a year already. And do you know what the most interesting part is?" Emma shook her head. After Paul died, his will was supposed to be read. Officially, everything went to the widow. But one of Sullivan's former partners, who now lives overseas, claims there was a different will. One where the controlling share of the company went to Matthew, and management went to a board of directors until his 30th birthday. Which means your mother-in-law may have forged the will, and all this time she hasn't just been running the company. She's been robbing it. Money was being funneled into shell accounts, some of it overseas. Emma felt her head start to spin. "Dad, does Matthew know?" "That's what I have to find out. Either he's an accomplice, or he's a victim of his own mother's manipulation." "He couldn't be. He would never—" "I hope you're right." Her father closed the folder. "But right now, I'm more concerned about something else. Why does she hate you so much?" Emma flinched. "She doesn't hate me. I saw it. I saw it today. I noticed it before, but I thought it was just a typical mother-in-law jealous of her son. This is more than that. She was pushing you out of the family on purpose. The question is, why? Maybe she just doesn't like me." "No." Her father shook his head. "It's too systematic to be simple dislike. She's afraid of you. Or more precisely, she's afraid of me through you." "Of you?" "She knows I still have connections. From the beginning, she may have been scared I'd find out what she was doing. And the closer you were to their family, the more dangerous the situation became for her." Emma stared at her father, and piece by piece, the puzzle started coming together into a picture. Her mother-in-law's coldness, her attempts to turn Matthew against his wife, the constant humiliation meant to make Emma leave. She wanted us to get divorced? Most likely. A divorce, and you disappear from their lives, along with me and my dangerous connections, and Matthew stays under her total control. But he loves me. He did, at least. Her father looked her in the eye. I think he still does. But he's broken, Emma. In the morning, Emma called Arthur. Her son's voice, sleepy and hurt, sliced straight through her heart. Mom, where are you? Why did you leave? Grandma said you got sick. I'm okay. I just needed to stay at Grandpa and Grandma's. I'll be back soon. Promise? I promise. She hung up and burst into tears. On the third day, her friend Marina called. Emma, where have you been? I've been calling and calling. I'm at my parents'. Marina, we have problems. I figured. Your favorite guy was gloomier than a storm cloud at work yesterday, and his mom showed up. They were screaming at each other in his office. Screaming? Oh yeah. The secretary told me. She said Vivian was yelling something like, "It's all because of her, and I should have done this a long time ago." And Matthew was saying he couldn't do it anymore. Emma's heart started pounding. Couldn't do what, exactly? I don't know. After that, he sat in his office all day alone, didn't see anyone. That evening, when her father got home, Emma told him about the call. Interesting, he drawled. Looks like there's a crack in their little kingdom. That's good. Dad, maybe I should talk to him. To Matthew. Too soon. Wait a little longer. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Walker. He promised to show me the investigation files. When we know everything, then you'll talk. The meeting took place in a small cafe on the outskirts of town. Steve Walker, a heavy-set man with gray mustache, spread several folders in front of Victor. Here, take a look. Sullivan Construction over the last 3 years. The scheme is simple, but effective. They sign contracts for one amount, but in reality the work gets done for a lot less. The difference goes into someone's pocket. Whose pocket? That's the interesting part. Walker tapped a document with his finger. The money goes to the accounts of 3 companies. 2 are registered to straw owners, but the third... He pulled out another sheet. The founder, Sullivan V.S. Her, Victor said. Exactly. And the registration date on that outfit is 6 months before her husband died. She was preparing in advance. Victor frowned. And Matthew? That's a separate story. Officially, he's Deputy Director of Development. On paper, he gets a salary and bonuses. But here's what's interesting. Every financial decision is made by his mother. He's basically a decorative figure. So he's not an accomplice? Not on the documents. But that doesn't mean he doesn't suspect anything. He could just be keeping his eyes closed. Victor picked up one of the folders and flipped through it. Is this enough to file charges? It's enough. But we're waiting. We have information she's moving money overseas, setting up an escape route. We want to catch her red-handed. When? Soon. Maybe a week, maybe 2. We've got someone at the bank. Got it. Victor was quiet for a moment. Steve, I need a favor. Personal. Go ahead. My daughter is married to Matthew Sullivan. They're having problems. Her mother-in-law is forcing her out of the family. I need to know if he's in on it, or if he's just a pawn. Walker thought for a moment. I can arrange a conversation with him, informal. I'd appreciate it. Marina called the next day, barely after Emma woke up. Are you sitting down? I'm standing. Why? Then sit. Your mother-in-law fired 3 people yesterday, the accountant, the head of procurement, and the secretary, the same one who told me. For what? Officially, for violating workplace policies. Unofficially, all 3 knew something. The accountant, they say, was straight up sobbing, screaming that she has a mortgage and 2 kids. Emma went cold. She's cleaning up loose ends. What? Nothing. Marina, thanks for telling me. She called her father immediately. He listened in silence, then said, Walker was right. She's getting ready to run. We're speeding things up. That same evening, Emma decided on a desperate step. She had to talk to her husband, alone, without her mother-in-law, without witnesses. As she dialed the familiar number, her heart hammered. Hello? Matthew's voice was rough, exhausted. It's me. A long pause. Then, Emma, where are you? At my parents'. Matthew, we need to talk. Just you and me. No, your mom. She's out of town. Until tomorrow. Then I'm coming over. Emma, listen. No, you listen. I'm coming, and we're talking. You owe me that. At least that. She rode in a cab, trying to pull her thoughts together. What would she say? Where would she start? Your mother is a thief? She's been manipulating you your whole life? It all sounded like an accusation, and she needed him to actually hear her. Matthew opened the door. He looked awful, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt. Arthur? Emma asked first. Sleeping. He waited for you as long as he could, but I told him you'd be here in the morning. They went into the living room and sat across from each other like strangers. Emma, He faltered. Wait. Let me go first. She took a breath and started talking about everything. About how she'd felt all these years, about the constant humiliations, about the cold growing between them, about that birthday, about sitting out on the landing and thinking, why? What did I do to deserve this? Matthew listened with his head lowered. He didn't interrupt, didn't argue, didn't justify himself. You threw me out of the room on our son's birthday, our son's, Matthew, like I was some servant you can just kick out, like I was nobody. I know, he said quietly. I know. Then why? He lifted his eyes to her, and Emma flinched. There was no anger in them, no arrogance, only pain, endless, muffled pain. Because I'm a coward, Emma. Because my whole life I did what my mother told me to do, because... His voice broke. Because I lost myself, and I almost lost you. Matthew. No, let me finish. I've wanted to say this so many times, but she was always there. Always whispering, Emma isn't good enough for you. She's using you. She wants to get to our money. And I listened. Like an idiot, I listened. Why? Because she's my mother. Because she's always been there. Because after my dad died, she was the only one who... He stopped. Emma saw him fighting himself, saw the words trying to break free and getting stuck in his throat. The only one who what? She asked softly. The only one who said she loved me. And then Emma understood. She understood everything. Vivian wasn't just manipulating her son. She was keeping him in emotional captivity. The only source of love. The only person who understands him. And Emma was a threat. Not because her father was a prosecutor, but because Matthew loved her, truly loved her, and his mother could see it. Matthew. Emma stood and walked over to him. He didn't lift his head. Matthew, look at me. He looked up, his eyes shining. I love you too. I loved you this whole time, even when I hated you, even when I cried at night. But I can't do this anymore. I can't be third in our marriage. You, me, and her. It doesn't work. I know. Then what are you going to do? He stayed silent for so long, Emma was already about to turn and leave. Then he said, I found Dad's documents, the day before yesterday in his office. Mom thought she'd destroyed everything, but he was careful. What documents? His real will and proof. Emma's heart stopped. Proof of what? That she's been stealing from me. For 3 years. The company Dad built from nothing. She's been draining money out of it. My money. Money that should have gone to Arthur. He stood up, went to the bookshelf, and pulled a thick folder from behind the books. Here. It's all here. She thought I was an obedient puppet, that I'd never dare dig into her business. But when you left, when your father said what he said, I realized I had to know the truth. Emma looked at him, broken, scared, but for the first time in years, honest, and felt something thaw inside her. Matthew, At that moment, the front door slammed. Matthew, I came back early. The meeting got canceled. Vivian's voice rang through the apartment. "Matthew, where are you?" They looked at each other. Fear flashed in her husband's eyes, but then something else. Determination. "I'm here, Mom," he answered calmly. "In the living room. And you know what? We need to talk." The three of us. Footsteps in the hallway. The living room door swung open. Vivian froze in the doorway when she saw her daughter-in-law. What is she doing here? She's my wife, and she's home. "Matthew, we agreed." "No." His voice strengthened. "We didn't agree to anything. You decided. I went along with it. But that's over." "What are you talking about?" Steel rang in her voice. Matthew lifted the folder. "I know everything, Mom. About the money, the shell companies, Dad's real will." Vivian went pale. She stood in the doorway, and her face changed right in front of them. First surprise, then cold rage, and then the mask of calm she put on every time things slipped out of her control. "Matthew, sweetheart, what nonsense are you talking about?" Her voice was soft, almost affectionate. "What documents? What companies? You're tired. You're upset." "Don't." Matthew gripped the folder tighter. "Not this. I saw it all. I read it all. You can lie to me all you want, but the numbers don't lie. She put you up to this." Vivian pointed a finger toward Emma. This is a gold digger. I told you from the very beginning she's not who she pretends to be. Emma has nothing to do with it. She didn't even know about the documents until I showed them to her myself. Matthew, listen to me." His mother stepped closer. Her voice turned coaxing, slippery. "Everything I did was for you, for our family. The company is everything we have. Your father is gone, and someone had to steal, funnel money out, forge wills?" "Not forge," she shrieked. "I was protecting our interests. You were too young, too inexperienced. If management had gone to the board, they would have bankrupted us within a year." "How much did you move?" Matthew asked. His voice was dull. "That doesn't matter." "How much?" Vivian said nothing. "I did the math. According to these documents, more than 80 million over 3 years. 80 million, Mom. Put you up to this. From the start. You put you up to this. From the start. You think it's a coincidence? They planned it all. Get you to fall for her, get into the family, and then... Enough! Matthew slammed his palm on the table. Enough blaming Emma for every sin under the sun. She's the only person who actually loves me. And you only love control, power, and money. Something terrifying flickered in Vivian's eyes. Emma could see it. Her mother-in-law was cornered, but not broken. People like her fought to the very end. Fine. Vivian's voice suddenly turned icy. If that's what you've decided, be my guest. But if those documents end up in the wrong hands, it won't just be me who suffers. You're a deputy director. Your signature is on half the paperwork. You think investigators are going to sort out which one of us was really in charge? No, sweetheart. We go down together. Emma sank onto the couch. Her legs wouldn't hold her. She's bluffing, she said, though her voice shook. She has to be bluffing. I don't know. Matthew sat beside her, letting the folder drop onto his knees. With her, you never know. She's capable of anything. But you didn't sign anything illegal, did you? I signed a ton of documents without looking. She said it was just a formality, just reporting. I believed her. Emma took his hand. His fingers were ice cold. Matthew, listen. My dad, he'll help. He knows how to untangle situations like this. If you truly didn't know about the scheme, we can prove it. And if we can't? We can. But for that, you have to tell him everything. The investigators too. The whole truth. He was quiet for a long time, then squeezed her hand. Okay, I'll do it. They spent the night together for the first time in a long while. Not in an intimate way. They just lay side by side, holding hands, staring at the ceiling. Arthur was asleep in his room, his soft breathing drifting through the half-open door. "I miss this so much," Emma whispered. "What?" "Us. How it used to be." Matthew turned toward her. In the dark, she couldn't see his face, but she could feel his gaze. "I was an idiot all these years." "Not now. We'll talk later. Right now, just stay here." Toward morning, she dozed off, but the sleep was anxious, jagged. She dreamed of her mother-in-law, huge, looming over her like a black shadow. "You'll never get rid of me," Vivian said. "Never." Emma woke up to the sound of a door slamming. The space beside her was empty. Matthew was already up. She threw on a robe and stepped into the hallway. Voices were coming from the kitchen. Matthew and someone else. A man's voice, unfamiliar. She peeked through the doorway. 2 men were seated at the table. Folders, loose papers spread in front of them. Matthew, pale and tight with tension, was answering questions. "Emma Morris Sullivan?" One of the men noticed her. "Come in, have a seat. I'm Captain Walker, Steve, a friend of your father's, and this is my colleague, Lieutenant Simmons." Emma sat beside her husband. Under the table, she found his hand and squeezed. "Your husband told us about the documents he found. This is very important information." "So Vivian, they're going to arrest her?" Emma asked. "It's too early to talk about an arrest, but we've opened a criminal case for large-scale fraud. Your mother-in-law will be put out on a lookout if she tries to leave the country." "And Matthew?" Emma looked at her husband. She threatened that he'd suffer too, that his signature is on the documents. Walker exchanged a glance with his colleague. "We'll verify everything, but based on the preliminary assessment, Matthew acted as a nominal signer without real access to the financial operations. If that's confirmed, he won't be charged. More than that, his testimony will be key to the case." Emma felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Vivian wasn't right there anymore, and that was good, but she was free, with her money, with her hatred. "Could she come back?" Emma asked. "Unlikely. If she crosses the border, she'll stay there." Matthew sat on the couch, his head in his hands. "She's gone," he said dully. "My mother. She left me and ran." Emma sat beside him. "She didn't leave you. She ran from responsibility." "It's the same thing." He looked up at her, eyes red and inflamed. "My whole life she told me she did everything for me, that I was her purpose, and the moment it got truly dangerous, she just ran. Didn't even say goodbye." "Matthew, do you know what's scariest? I only realized it now. She never loved me. Not really. I was a tool, a way to control my father while he was alive, and then a way to keep power over the company." Emma wrapped her arms around him. He flinched like he didn't expect the touch, then went limp against her. "I'm so guilty," he whispered. "So guilty." "Shh, not the time." "No, it is time." He pulled back and looked her in the eyes. "I have to say it. All these years I chose her. Every time there was a choice, I chose my mother. I humiliated you, ignored you, let her torment you. And you still stayed. Why? Because I loved you. You loved me? And now?" Emma was quiet. It was an honest question, and it deserved an honest answer. "I don't know," she finally said. "I really don't. What happened hurt so much. You don't forget something like that in one night. I understand. But I'm willing to try. If you really want to change, if it's not just words, I'll prove it." He took her hands in his. "I know words don't mean anything. I'll prove it. Every day. As long as it takes." Arthur woke up an hour later. He ran out of his room rubbing his eyes, then froze in the living room doorway when he saw his parents together. "Mom!" He threw himself at Emma and hugged her tight. "You're back." "I'm back." "Forever? You're not going to Grandpa's again?" "Forever." The boy looked at his father, wary, like he was measuring him. "Dad, You're not going to hurt Mom anymore? Matthew flinched. No, buddy, never again. Promise? I promise. Arthur walked up to his father and hugged him too. Then he took both of their hands. Now we're a family again, like before. Emma and Matthew looked at each other. Yes, sweetie, Emma said. Like before, even better. A week passed in a strange, shaky calm. They couldn't find Vivian. Border records showed she had crossed into Mexico using fake documents. From there, she'd flown to an unknown destination. Interpol put out an alert, but the chances of catching her were slim. Matthew went to interviews, gave statements, sorted through documents with investigators. Every evening he came home exhausted, but different. Like each day he was dropping an invisible weight. You know, he said one evening, for the first time in years, I feel free. It's weird. My mother is a criminal. The company is on the edge of bankruptcy. And I feel free. Free from what? From her. From her voice in my head. Before, I did everything thinking, what would Mom say? Every decision. Every step. And now? Now I think, what's right? And it's freeing. Emma watched him and saw the young man she'd fallen in love with years ago. Not exactly the same. Life had left its marks. Fine lines at the corners of his eyes, a few gray hairs at his temples. But something essential, something real, was breaking through the years of distance. Matthew, she said one day, I want you to know something. What? I'm not expecting everything to be good overnight. Trust doesn't come back in a week, and pain doesn't disappear with a snap of your fingers. But I see you trying, and that matters. He nodded. I understand, and I'm not rushing you. I'll just be here, until you're ready. Victor came by a few days later to check on his daughter. He talked with Matthew for a long time in the kitchen while Emma put Arthur to bed. Emma didn't know what they said exactly, but when she came out, the air was tense. Everything okay? She asked carefully. Yes, her father said, standing up. We talked. Matthew knows what I think about how he behaved all these years, and he knows what will happen if it ever repeats. Dad. No, sweetheart. It needed to be said. He's your husband, the father of my grandson. I'm willing to give him a chance, but only one. Matthew nodded silently. There was no resentment on his face, only understanding. After her father left, they sat in silence for a long time. He's right, Matthew said at last. I deserved every word. He's just worried. I know. I'll do everything so he never sees you crying because of me again. But the calm didn't last long. 10 days after Vivian disappeared, Emma came home from work and found a stranger, and here's the lady of the house. Here's the lady of the house. The woman stood and held out her hand. Janet Crawford, Child Protective Services. Nice to meet you. Emma went cold. Child Protective Services? Yes. We received a report about an unsafe home environment. We decided to check in. What report? From who? The woman smiled a sour professional smile. That's confidential information, but I can tell you a complaint was filed about neglectful parenting, specifically about you, Emma Morris Sullivan. Emma felt the floor drop out from under her. That's ridiculous. I'm a good mother. Ask anyone. We are asking. Janet nodded toward Matthew. Your husband has already answered a few questions. Right, Matthew? Matthew looked shaken and angry at the same time. I told her it's nonsense, that you're a wonderful mother. Child's living conditions, and speak with child's living conditions, and speak with him. You are not speaking to my son without me. Emma Morris Sullivan, your aggression only supports the information we received. The complaint, by the way, also mentions your unstable mental state. Emma understood. It was Vivian. Even from who knows where, her mother-in-law had found a way to strike. Who filed the complaint? Matthew stepped between his wife and the CPS worker. I demand to know. An anonymous report. It happens. An anonymous report from my mother, who is currently wanted internationally for fraud. Does that not concern you? How do you know it was your mother? Because there's no one else. She's hated my wife her whole life and did everything she could to destroy our family. Janet pressed her lips together. That's your assumption. I have an official report I'm required to investigate. So please, show me the child's room. The next hour turned into a nightmare. The woman inspected the apartment, asked questions, made notes in her notebook. She opened the refrigerator. Not many fruits. She went into Arthur's room. Isn't there a bit too many toys? That can be distracting. That night, Emma couldn't fall asleep. She lay there staring into the darkness, and terrifying images kept looping in her head. Arthur being taken away, driven off to foster care. Him crying and calling for his mom. She knew it was nonsense, that it didn't happen like that, but she was scared anyway. Toward morning, she finally dozed off, then woke up to Arthur's voice. Mom, who was that lady who came yesterday? Emma opened her eyes. Her son was standing by the bed, serious and a little uneasy. She's just someone doing a check from an agency. She's bad, right? Why do you think that? Arthur scrunched up his forehead. She was smiling, but her eyes were mean. Like Grandma's. Emma pulled her son close. You're a very observant little guy. Mom, did Grandma really leave for good? Yes, she left. Good. Arthur pressed against her. I don't want her to come back. She always said mean stuff to you when she thought I couldn't hear. Emma went still. What did she say? She said you're stupid, that Dad should have married a different lady, that you... He stopped. That you're ruining Dad's life. Her heart squeezed with pain and anger. That's not true. None of that is true. I know, Mom. You're the best. Victor reacted instantly. When he heard about the Child Protective Services visit, he called his contacts, and a few hours later, he called back with news. Janet Crawford, 13 years with CPS. 3 years ago, she was under investigation for abuse of power. The case got buried, and there's information that she, let's just say, provides services for a certain fee. So she was bought. Looks like it. Vivian could have contacted her before she ran, set up a backup plan. So what do we do now? I already spoke with her supervisors. Not officially, but convincingly. I think they'll assign the case to someone else, and Crawford will have bigger problems than you very soon. Her own mess will resurface. Sure enough, 3 days later, CPS called. A different voice, a different tone. Apologies for the misunderstanding, assurance that the check found no violations. The case was closed. Emma exhaled in relief, but the anxiety wouldn't let go. Her mother-in-law was out there somewhere, far away, still reaching her tentacles toward their family. We have to be ready, she told Matthew that evening. She won't stop. There'll be another attack, then another. I know. He was sitting at the computer, studying some documents. That's why I made a decision. What decision? I'm selling the company. Emma stared at him. What? I'm selling Sullivan Construction. Whatever's left after my mother's scheme. Isn't a company. It's the honesty he isn't a company. It's the honesty he taught me. Decency. Love for family. He paused. I forgot that. My mother made me forget. And now? Now I want to start over, from scratch. And what are you going to do? I don't know yet. Maybe I'll start my own thing, small, honest. Maybe I'll get a job. Normal, like everyone else. The main thing is, it'll be my decision, not hers. Emma walked over and hugged him from behind. I'm proud of you. Really? Really. A month passed. Life slowly settled into a new rhythm. Matthew sold the company for far less than it had been worth before his mother's fraud. He took a job as an engineer at a small construction firm. The pay was a fraction of what he used to make. But he came home with bright eyes, talking about projects, co-workers, plans. You know what's funny? He'd say. For the first time, I feel like I'm doing real work. Before it was all paperwork, meetings, signatures, and now it's actual work. And I like it. Emma went back to teaching. The school welcomed her back warmly. The kids had missed her. Her colleagues had been worried. The principal pulled her aside and said quietly, "We know what you've been through. If you need support, just say the word." Arthur blossomed. No more tense grandma visits, no more poisonous remarks, no more heavy atmosphere. He laughed, goofed around, drew pictures and gave them to his mom. This is you, Mom, and Dad, and me, and we're all happy. One evening, after their son was asleep, Matthew called Emma out onto the balcony. It was a warm February night. The world was getting ready for spring. "Remember," he began, "you asked if I still loved you?" Emma nodded. "I didn't answer then. I couldn't. Words felt empty after everything I'd done. And now?" He turned to her. "Now I want to say it. Not because I have to, but because I feel it." Emma stayed quiet, waiting. "I love you, Emma. I've loved you the whole time, even when I was a complete idiot and didn't understand it. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'll do anything to deserve a second chance." She looked at him, at this new Matthew, who was learning all over again how to be a husband, a father, a man. The road was long. The wounds weren't healed yet, but something was changing. Something real was pushing through the pain. "I love you too," she said. "And yes, you deserve that chance." But the story wasn't over. In early March, Walker called. "Emma Morris Sullivan, I've got news. We found your mother-in-law." "Where?" "In Mexico. She was living under an assumed name, but things didn't go her way." "What happened?" "She's dead." Emma froze. "How?" "A heart attack. Ironically, just like her husband. Local police found her in a rented apartment. Next to her was a suitcase of cash and fake documents." "So it's over?" "Legally, yes. The case is closed due to the defendant's death. The assets she managed to move will be returned, at least the part we can trace. That'll take time, but the process has started." Emma hung up and sat motionless for a long time. She didn't know what she felt. Relief, bitterness, a strange emptiness. Matthew came home from work an hour later. One look at her face, and he knew something had happened. "Emma? Your mom. She died." He froze, then slowly sank into a chair. "How?" "Heart, in Mexico." A long silence. "I should feel something," he finally said. "Grief, pain, something. But I don't feel anything, just emptiness." "That's normal, after everything. She was my mother. I was supposed to love her. But now," he shook his head, "now I realize I loved the image of the person she pretended to be. I didn't know the real her, and I guess I didn't want to." Emma sat beside him. "You don't have to mourn, and you don't have to feel guilty for not mourning. I know. It's just weird to realize she's gone, that she can't do anything anymore. That's the end, Matthew, the real end." He took her hand. "No, it's the beginning." There was no funeral. Her body was cremated in Mexico. Matthew didn't want to bring the ashes back home. "Let her stay there," he said. Leaving was her choice. Let it stay her choice. In a strange way, her mother-in-law's death brought final freedom, like the ghost hanging over their family finally dissolved. Emma noticed how Matthew changed. Before, even in the best moments, there was tension in him, waiting for a call, fearing his mother's disapproval. Now it was gone. He laughed easily, openly. He joked with Arthur, played with him, built little forts out of building blocks. At night, he read fairy tales out loud, changing his voice in a silly way for different characters. "Dad got nice," Arthur told his mom one day while they cooked dinner together. "Dad was always nice. It was just hard for him to show it." "Because of Grandma?" Emma sighed. Her son was too observant for 6. Partly. Adults get tangled up sometimes. But now everything's good, right? She kissed the top of his head. Yes. Now it's good. In April, Matthew did something Emma didn't expect. He came home with a bouquet of flowers and an embarrassed smile. Our anniversary is in a week, he said. 7 years. I remember. Emma, I want a do-over. A do-over of what? Everything. The proposal. The wedding. A fresh start. She stared at him. Matthew, we're already married. I know, but that wedding wasn't ours. My mother controlled everything. Picked the venue, the guests, even approved your dress. You went along with it because you wanted peace in the family, and I was too much of a coward to push back. He dropped to one knee. Emma Morris, will you marry me again, for real, without her shadow over us? Emma felt tears rise to her eyes, but these were different tears, not pain, but something close to happiness. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. Their vow renewal ceremony took place in May. Quiet, intimate, just the people closest to them. Emma's parents, a few friends, Arthur as the honorary best man. Emma didn't wear a wedding gown. She chose a simple, elegant, cream-colored dress. Matthew wore a regular suit, no extravagance. They stood facing each other in a small chapel while the minister read words about love, loyalty, support in sorrow and in joy. I take you as my wife, Matthew said, his voice steady. In sickness and in health, in wealth and in poverty. I promise to love, respect, and protect you. I promise to be there, not because I have to, but because I want to, every day, for the rest of my life. When they exchanged rings, the same ones they'd put on 7 years ago, now blessed again, Emma felt something click into place, like a circle closing. You may kiss the bride, the minister smiled. Matthew held her carefully, gently, like she was something precious. I love you, he whispered, and I love you. Arthur clapped his hands. Yay! Mom and Dad got married again. Everyone laughed. They had a celebratory lunch at Emma's favorite cafe. Simple, cozy, home-cooked food, and a warm atmosphere. No expensive restaurant, no hundreds of guests, just the people who truly mattered. Victor raised his glass. To my daughter, the strongest woman I know, and to her husband, who finally understood what a treasure he was given. Matthew nodded. I did, Victor. Late, but I did. The main thing is it's not too late. That summer was hot. They rented a little lakeside cabin, a small wooden house with a porch and a blooming garden. Arthur splashed in the water all day, caught frogs, built sandcastles. Matthew taught him to swim, to fish, to start a campfire. Are you happy? Matthew asked in the evenings when they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Yes, Emma answered. I'm happy. And it was true. Not the simple, light, carefree happiness from the beginning. A different kind. Hard-won, earned, happiness that had been through pain and come out stronger. In September, Emma found out she was pregnant. She stared at the 2 lines on the test and couldn't believe it. Arthur was already 6, and she'd made peace with the idea that he'd be her only child. After that difficult birth, doctors had warned her. Another pregnancy could be dangerous. But now, looking at those lines, she didn't feel fear. She felt joy. Pure, unclouded joy. Matthew, she called. He ran in, out of breath. What? What happened? She silently held out the test. For a second he stared, not understanding. Then it hit him. Really? Really? He hugged her so tightly she could barely breathe. Emma, I don't even know what to say. Then don't say anything. Just be happy. And he was happy. Happy like a kid. Jumping, laughing, spinning her around the room. I'm going to be the best dad, I swear. I'll get up at night, change diapers, sing lullabies. You're already a good dad. I'll be even better. I promise. The pregnancy went smoothly, despite the doctor's fears. Regular checkups, vitamins, routine. Emma went on maternity leave early. The principal insisted. "Rest, Emma. We'll manage. You take care of yourself." Arthur was thrilled at the idea of becoming a big brother. "Mom, is it going to be a boy or a girl?" "A girl." "A girl, yes. I'm going to protect her." "From who?" "From all the bad guys." Matthew chuckled at his enthusiasm, but he was getting ready with the same kind of excitement. He put the crib together, painted the nursery a soft peach. Emma insisted, "No pink." He read baby care books. "You've already been through this," Emma said, surprised. "Not like this. Back then I was different. I'd come home exhausted, crash, and leave everything on you. But now I want to do it myself, every moment." The baby girl was born in March, exactly 1 year after that fateful birthday. Symbolic, Emma thought, looking at the tiny little face. "What should we name her?" Matthew asked, holding their daughter in his arms. "Anna, after my grandmother." "Annie, Annabelle." He smiled. "Perfect." Victor rushed to the hospital first, before even Matthew, who got held up picking Arthur up from school. "Grandpa," he introduced himself to the nurse. "Here to see my granddaughter." When he took Anna in his arms, tears flashed in his eyes. "Emma, she's so tiny, so beautiful, just like you." Emma reached out and squeezed her father's hand. "Thank you, Dad." "For what?" "For everything. For that call. For not leaving me. For believing in me. I will always believe in you, sweetheart. Always." A year passed, then another. Anna grew, giggles, tantrums, adored by everyone. Arthur turned out to be a wonderful big brother, patient and caring. He read his sister books, showed her his toys, guarded her naps. "Mom, she's looking at me," he yelled in delight every time his little sister turned her head toward him. Matthew worked, rebuilding his career without a famous name, without his mother's connections. Slowly, stubbornly. 2 years later, he was promoted to site supervisor. Another year after that, they offered him the chief engineer position. "Me," he said proudly. "All me." Emma went back to teaching, but took fewer hours. She wanted to be with the kids. They found a great nanny, an older retired teacher who adored little ones. Life settled into a steady rhythm, with its joys, arguments, and makeups, weekdays and holidays. The ordinary life of an ordinary family. A beautiful, unpredictable, amazing life, full of happiness and heartbreak, victories and losses. But now she knew that no matter what happened, they would handle it together, because they were a family, a real family. Thanks for watching, dear friends. If you enjoyed the story, please support us with a like, hit that thumbs up. It's just one click for you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you in advance, dear friends.